This chilling story took place in the deep woods of the Pacific Northwest, where a group of friends went camping to escape the hustle and bustle of city life. Little did they know, they would encounter a terror that would haunt them forever. In the summer of 2016, four friends, Sarah, Tom, Jessica, and Mike, decided to go on a camping trip deep in the dense forests of Washington State. They found a secluded spot near a serene lake and set up their tents. The first day was filled with laughter, swimming, and exploring the surrounding woods. As night fell, they built a campfire and shared ghost stories. Sarah noticed a faint glimmering light deeper in the forest, which she pointed out to the group. They brushed it off, assuming it was other campers or a distant cabin. Around midnight, while they were settling into their tents, Sarah heard rustling sounds and soft footsteps outside. She dismissed it as wildlife, but couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. The next morning, they found strange symbols carved into trees around their campsite, symbols they couldn't recognize. Tom, trying to keep spirits high, joked about it being the work of pranksters. That night, they heard the sound of twigs snapping and the distinct feeling of eyes on them. The noises grew louder, and suddenly Sarah saw a shadowy figure standing at the edge of their campsite, watching them. Panicked, they shone their flashlights towards the figure, but it vanished into the darkness. The next day, they decided to hike back to their cars, but realized they were being followed. At first, it was just a feeling, but soon they heard footsteps mirroring their own. Jessica screamed as she spotted the same shadowy figure darting between trees. They quickened their pace, but no matter how fast they walked, the figure kept pace, always staying just out of clear view. When they finally reached their cars, they found deep, scratch-like marks on the vehicle's hoods and sides. Desperate to leave, they quickly packed and drove away, glancing back to see the figure standing at the edge of the forest, watching them leave. Later, they reported the incident to the local authorities, who conducted an investigation, but found no evidence of anyone else being in the area. The symbols on the trees were identified as ancient markings used by a now-extinct native tribe, believed to ward off evil spirits. To this day, none of them can explain who or what they encountered in those woods. In 2009, a family camping trip in the Appalachian Mountains turned into a nightmare when they realized they were not alone. This story is about their terrifying encounter with an unseen stalker that left them scarred for life. The Richardson family, Mark, Linda, and their two children, Emma and Jack, set out for a week-long camping trip in the Appalachian Mountains. They chose a remote area known for its breathtaking views and tranquility. The first few days were idyllic, filled with hiking and family bonding. One evening, as they sat around the campfire, they heard a distant, eerie howl. Mark assured his family it was just a coyote, but Linda noticed a pair of glowing eyes watching them from the darkness. When she pointed it out, the eyes disappeared, and the family tried to ignore the unsettling feeling. The next night, while they were sleeping, Mark was awakened by a low growl near their tent. He quietly unzipped the tent and shone his flashlight outside, revealing nothing. In the morning, they found large claw-like footprints around their campsite. Unease began to set in, but they decided to stay, thinking it was just a wild animal passing through. The following night, the growling returned, accompanied by the sound of heavy breathing and movement around their tents. Emma screamed as something brushed against their tent, causing the whole family to huddle together in fear. Mark grabbed a hunting knife and stepped outside, but again saw nothing. Determined to leave, they packed their belongings at first light and began their trek back to their car. Halfway through the hike, they realized they were being followed. They could hear rustling leaves and snapping branches, but whenever they looked back, they saw nothing. The tension grew as the sounds got closer. Suddenly, Jack tripped and fell, and as Mark helped him up, they saw a dark, hulking figure standing on the trail behind them. It was too large to be a human and too upright to be an animal. They ran as fast as they could, the unseen stalker seemingly right behind them, its heavy footsteps echoing through the forest. When they finally reached their car, they jumped in and sped away, hearts pounding and adrenaline coursing through their veins. They reported the incident to the park rangers, who investigated but found no evidence of a creature matching their description. The Richardsons never returned to the Appalachian Mountains, and to this day they believe they encountered something not of this world. Whatever it was, it remains a mystery, lurking somewhere in the depths of the forest. In the summer of 2012, a group of college students on a camping trip by Lake Oconee, Georgia, faced a night of terror when they encountered a creature that defies explanation. 5 friends, Lisa, Brian, Matt, Stephanie, and Jason, decided to spend a weekend camping by Lake Oconee to celebrate the end of their semester. They set up camp near the shore, eager to enjoy a few days of relaxation and fun. The first day went smoothly, with swimming, fishing, and lounging by the water. As night fell, they built a campfire and roasted marshmallows, sharing stories and laughing. Around midnight, Jason suggested they go for a moonlit swim. As they approached the water, Stephanie screamed, pointing to a large, shadowy figure standing across the lake, partially submerged in the water. The figure had glowing eyes and seemed to be watching them. Nervously, they retreated to their campfire, trying to shake off the eerie feeling. They joked about it being a trick of the light or a local prankster. That night, as they slept in their tents, they were awakened by splashing sounds coming from the lake, followed by deep, guttural growls. Brian peered out of his tent and saw the figure emerging from the water, now closer to their campsite. He woke everyone up, and they watched in horror as the creature slowly moved towards them. Panicked, they grabbed whatever they could and ran into the woods away from the lake. The creature gave chase, its growls growing louder and more menacing. They ran through the dense forest, the sound of snapping branches and heavy footsteps right behind them. Lisa tripped and fell, but Matt quickly helped her up, and they continued their frantic escape. Eventually, they found an old, abandoned cabin and barricaded themselves inside. They could hear the creature circling the cabin, its growls vibrating through the walls. It scratched at the doors and windows, trying to get in. The friends huddled together, terrified, and prayed for dawn. As the first light of morning broke, the growling stopped. They cautiously stepped outside, finding deep claw marks on the cabin's exterior. They hurried back to their campsite, packed their belongings, and left the area immediately. Later, they learned that local legend spoke of a creature that lurked in Lake Oconee, a beast said to be the spirit of an ancient guardian protecting the lake from intruders. Whether they encountered a supernatural entity or an unknown creature remains a mystery, but the experience left them shaken and vowing never to return to the lake.